Chapter 1, The Interpreter with a Kind Heart. Emma Reynolds was known not for her looks or status, but for her kindness. She had grown up in a small town, raised by a single mother who taught her one golden rule: kindness doesn't need words to be heard. She worked as a sign language interpreter, often helping at hospitals, schools, and charity events. Her gentle eyes and calm demeanor always made people feel understood, even when they couldn't hear a sound. One cold morning, Emma received a call from a luxury firm, Harrington Industries, a billion-dollar empire run by Ethan Harrington, one of the most powerful young CEOs in the country. The assistant said Ethan's father, Mr. Charles Harrington, was completely deaf and needed a translator for an important family meeting. Emma hesitated. The Harringtons were famous for their cold hearts and arrogance. But she accepted, not for the money, but because she believed everyone deserved to be understood. When Emma arrived at the mansion, she was struck by its beauty: marble floors, golden chandeliers, and paintings worth more than her entire neighborhood. But the air inside felt heavy, as if laughter hadn't lived there in years. Charles Harrington sat by the fireplace, a dignified old man in his 70s, his eyes lost in distance. Ethan stood nearby, cold and unreadable, his phone glued to his hand. Ethan barely looked at Emma. "Just do your job and keep it professional," he said flatly. Emma nodded, but as she began to sign gently to Mr. Harrington, everything changed. The old man's eyes widened in shock. His hands trembled. Slowly, he began to sign back, hesitantly, then with growing confidence. Emma smiled warmly, responding smoothly. Tears formed in the old man's eyes. For the first time in years, someone had spoken to him in the language of his heart. Ethan looked up from his phone, confused. His father was crying, something he hadn't seen since his mother's funeral. "What's happening?" Ethan asked. Emma turned to him softly. "He says, no one has signed to him since your mother passed away." Ethan froze. Guilt flickered across his face. His father signed again, slowly, painfully. "Tell my son, I missed hearing his voice." The room went silent. That night, as Emma drove home, she couldn't shake the image of the old man's tears. She didn't know it yet, but her small act of compassion had begun to heal a family that money could not. Chapter 2, The Message of Hands and Hearts. The next day, Emma was called again, this time, by Ethan himself. His voice, usually sharp and controlled, was uncharacteristically soft. "Miss Reynolds, my father asked for you. He said you're the first person who's made him feel seen in years." Emma returned to the mansion, unsure what awaited her. This time, the atmosphere felt different, warmer. Charles smiled when he saw her, signing, "Welcome back, my friend." As Emma translated between father and son, she began to notice something deeper. Ethan's walls were breaking. His words, once cold and clipped, became uncertain and emotional. For the first time, he truly listened, not with his ears, but with his heart. During one conversation, Charles signed something that made Emma's throat tighten. "Tell Ethan I don't need his billions, I just need my son back." Ethan's eyes glistened, his voice cracked. "Tell him, I'm sorry for forgetting what really matters." Emma signed his words, her hands trembling with emotion. Charles reached out, pulling his son into a hug, a father's embrace that had been missing for decades. The staff nearby wiped tears from their eyes. When Emma turned to leave that day, Ethan stopped her. "Emma," he said quietly, "you didn't just translate words. You translated love." He paused, emotion in his eyes. "If my mother were alive, she'd thank you for giving us back our family." Tears welled up in Emma's eyes. "I didn't do anything special," she whispered. "Sometimes, people just need to be heard, in any language." That night, Charles Harrington wrote a note, his first in years. It simply said, "The world needs more people like her." When Emma left the mansion for the last time, the cold wind brushed her face, but her heart was warm. She had entered as a stranger with gentle hands, and left as a woman who reminded a billionaire's family that love doesn't need sound to be felt. Bullseye final message for viewers. No matter how powerful, rich, or distant people become, everyone longs to be understood. And sometimes, a single act of kindness, even one made in silence, can speak louder than 1,000 words.